Welcome back to Open Line. Dr. Thomas Schwartz is with us. We are talking politics on the night of the New Hampshire primary. How many of the candidates will survive after tonight as the vote is counted in New Hampshire? Let's go back to the phones. Well, I wanted to ask you before we go to the phones. Hold on, I promise. The anger this year that we're seeing, as a historian, how unusual is it? How high a level of anger are we seeing this year as opposed to past years?
Well, I think we've defined it this year as anger, and I think one of the reasons we've defined it that way is because the candidate, particularly who exemplifies it, Trump, has a sort of angry demeanor. But voter unrest, uncertainty about the conditions in the country is not unusual. You know, if you go back in the New Hampshire primary, its history. For example, in 1952, Harry Truman was knocked off by Estes Kefauver from Tennessee in a way that made it clear Truman would decide not to run for president that year because of the Korean War and unhappiness with the Korean War. 68, with Eugene McCarthy coming so close to President Johnson, forced him, in a sense, out of the race, or at least gave the first indications that he would get pushed out. So there have been periods of time which voters have been extremely unhappy, and New Hampshire has captured it. 1996, Pat Buchanan beat Bob Dole, and Buchanan was the original anger candidate. So it's actually a cyclical thing that you see emerge. I think we've named it anger this year. Other years it was sort of unrest, unhappiness, sort of discontent. But I think New Hampshire has often been a vehicle for voters to express unhappiness with certain conditions.
Almost anti-establishment would be another way to put it, that there's unease with the establishment, and people are thumbing their nose at anyone who carries that banner. And is that unusual? Well, and it seems to go outside New Hampshire.
Again, we've been defining the establishment this year in particular ways.
Right.
You know, the incumbent presidents are the establishment, and they've often felt that same anger against them. So I think this is not as unusual as people say it. I think what is unusual is the vehicle. Donald Trump is a very unusual candidate to have captured that. Much more unusual than I think Bernie Sanders, in the sense that Trump is not a politician, he's a reality show star and all of this. The fact that he's become the embodiment, I think, is a little unusual.
All right, let's go to Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
This is Ryan.
Go right ahead.
Hey, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that Estes Lefevre. I think Lefevre, wasn't he? I worked for the National Retrospect, and we did a story about him a way back. I think he was from Tennessee or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, that he ended up running against. He got beat out there by
Adlai Stevenson.
Adlai Stevenson, right? Who got beat by Eisenhower.
Yes.
Wow, that's really amazing. But anyway, yeah, you know, I've heard that Trump has the best chance in a general election of wooing about 20% of Democratic voters away. And I think that's just fantastic. Another thing is, I think we definitely have to go to a popular vote, because when you just have 12 or 14 states in play, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you never even see a presidential candidate come to Tennessee or New York unless it's the fundraise, and that's just ridiculous.
All right, well, thank you for both those. That's the first. He's talking about the Electoral College in the second point. The first point, well, take the first point. What was the first point? I just forgot.
About Trump luring 20% of the Democrats.
Can he appeal to Democrats? There's a thinking, I think, in the Democratic Party that, wow, if Trump gets it, that's good for the Democratic Party.
Right.
But then I think there's some who are thinking he's such an unusual candidate that he may pull some Democrats away.
Right.
What do you think?
There is something of that. I actually tend to think that he'd be a disaster for the Republicans, in the sense that over time, that much of what he would have said would come back. I don't think he'd wear well over a long campaign. And I think there are so many Democratic constituencies who would be alienated by aspects of the things he's argued for, that I find it hard to believe that he would actually draw as many voters as it. I think right now he's benefited greatly from name recognition and from his television career. But over a long campaign with persistent questions about policy, about issues, I don't think he'd fare as well. I really I'm much more skeptical about that. Now, I realize I never thought he would get this far, so my prediction, I'm a historian more than a political scientist, my predictive powers are not good, but I would be very surprised if he would actually be able to carry as many Democratic votes as the caller suggested.
And I'm being told that in my ear that Trump is leading early as the results come in, 34%. Also Bernie Sanders leading early. It's very early. Is New Hampshire unique? I mean, once it gets down to South Carolina, does Trump do better down there? Somebody like Trump? And what about Hillary Clinton? There's certainly more diversity in South Carolina. Is that good for her?
Well, let me take Clinton first. Clinton is counting on South Carolina to revive her hopes, and that's partly because there is a very significant in the South Carolina primary African-American vote, and Bill Clinton, she has strong ties there. You know, granted, in 2008 that was a problem because she was running against Barack Obama, but running against Bernie Sanders, I think she thinks she's going to do considerably better, and I think they're going to pivot very quickly to South Carolina. Trump could do well in South Carolina. There is, though, a substantial military vote there connected to the military, and his attitude on that and some of the comments about McCain might come back against him. On the other hand, he certainly polled well down there, and he could, if he could take some momentum out of New Hampshire and do significantly well there.
Let's go to Mike on line 3. Hello, Mike.
Hi guys, how y'all doing?
Great. What's on your mind?
Hey, I got a question to ask, if you don't mind. My question is, whoever our next president is there any way that Congress or him can over-veto and have it rewritten in Congress or somehow that we could get prayer back in America's schools all over the world? Because I feel like that's what we're really liking, is when they took prayer out of schools, you know, it just seems like American people are going crazy, and they're forgetting about the love that they have for each other as neighbors and people helping each other. And I just feel like if we could get a God back in American schools and praying and everything like we used to do, it would be a better American people, and there wouldn't be all this shooting and killing.
All right, well, thank you. I mean, certainly you can vote along those lines, and I know many people feel that way. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Jimmy. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Hi, what's on your mind?
I was wondering, we were supposed to get new voting machines here because the ones we got can be rigged. And as like it's shown, the Republicans do not want Trump in. So basically, who's to say you can trust the voting if the machines can be rigged? And what happened to the electronic and paper ballot machines we were supposed to get?
Okay. That is an issue we hear from time to time. Mm-hmm. What do you want to say about that issue? I don't know about we were supposed to get new machines, but there is uneasiness on the part of some about the voting machines.
Yeah.
You know, what about
I
that?
think, you know, the interesting thing is someone like Trump, who cast doubt on the results in Iowa, could actually instill a lot of concern. His supporters would feel that someone's rigging the machines, and so it will be. I think it will be important to try and make this process transparent enough so that people accept the results. That's the worst thing that can happen in any election is when you have a situation in which people don't believe the results are honest.
Right. Let's go to Jackson. Hello, Jackson.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Great. What's on your mind?
I was just going to say that I believe more people is changing. They're not Democrats. They're not Republicans. They try to vote for the one they think will do the best job, and somebody that can put a little trust in. And I think a Trump would be a good one because he is standing up, and he's standing up against these people, and he's not backing down, and a lot of them are just back down to everything. He stands up to the people, and I think everybody's looking for somebody to stand up for us. And I think it's not Democrat, Republican. I think it's for the person to do the best job. I appreciate it, man.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for the call. What about the two-party system? Gridlock. There is enormous gridlock in Congress. People are frustrated. And so that's interesting. You hear a call like that. I don't think people are Democrat, Republican. Now they're more independent. Do you think is that true? What are you seeing with the two-party system?
Well, it's interesting that people feel that way because, of course, the usual line is that we're all very partisan these days. That people are blue states, red states, all of this. But people are frustrated by gridlock, and they would like to see more accomplished. On the other hand, this tends to produce, we actually do have a cycle in American history where we usually have these moments. 1992 with Ross Perot, where someone comes out of the side and says, I can do things because I'm a businessman. I understand what's happening, and I'm going to cut through the red tape in Washington to reduce the budget. And I think in some ways Trump is reflective of a cycle in American politics where you get a particular frustration with how the two parties govern or don't govern or are gridlocked, and you get this desire for someone outside of politics to come in and basically kick some tail and move things along. I think it's an understandable reaction. I also think it's wrong. I don't think it works. In effect, it's not. It's kind of the frustration with the democratic process that's understandable, but also I think a little dangerous on the side.
It is interesting you bring up Ross Perot because everybody's saying, "Oh, Trump is so unusual," and in many ways he is. There hasn't been a candidate like Trump, but perhaps what is propelling him is some of that whatever you want to call it, discomfort, anger. Frustration with the way things are going. Ross Perot is a great example.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting. All right, we're going to take a break. If you want to call in, there is the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.